In 2004, a man named Ronald Read died in Brattleboro, Vermont. He was a janitor. He worked at a JCPenney store for most of his adult life, sweeping floors, cleaning bathrooms, doing the invisible work that nobody notices and nobody celebrates. Before that, he pumped gas at a filling station. He drove a second-hand car. He wore clothes held together with safety pins. He cut his own firewood well into his 80s to save money on heating. When Ronald Read died, he left behind an estate worth $8.2 million. He had quietly, privately, without a single headline, without a single investor, without a single person paying attention, built one of the most significant personal fortunes in his town's history. Not through a business, not through an inheritance, not through luck, through habits so simple, so unglamorous, and so consistent that most men would dismiss them as boring. And that is exactly why most men will never be wealthy. Not because they lack intelligence, not because they lack opportunity, but because they are looking for the exciting version of wealth building. The startup, the crypto play, the viral business idea. While the actual path to financial freedom is being walked quietly every single day by men who understood something most people never do. The habits that create wealth are not complicated, but they are deeply, profoundly masculine in the truest sense of the word. They require the things that separate a boy from a man: patience, self-control, delayed gratification, discipline in the dark, and the ability to play a long game when everyone around you is chasing short-term pleasure. Welcome to Prime Within. If this is your first time here, welcome. If you've been with us for a while, you already know what we're about. Before we go any further, I want to ask you something genuinely important. If you believe in building a better version of yourself, if you believe that the life you want is built through daily decisions, not lucky breaks, hit that subscribe button right now. Because everything we talk about on this channel is built for the man who is serious about his own becoming. Subscribe now. It takes 2 seconds, and it means you never miss what's coming next. Let's get into it. Morgan Housel is a partner at the Collaborative Fund and the author of one of the most important books written about money in the last 50 years. The Psychology of Money has sold over 4 million copies and been translated into more than 50 languages. But what makes Housel different from every other financial writer is what he is actually writing about. He is not writing about investing strategies or market timing or which stocks to buy. He is writing about behavior, about psychology, about the invisible habits and mindsets that determine whether a person builds wealth or destroys it, regardless of how much they earn. And the most important thing Housel discovered, after years of studying the wealthiest and the least wealthy people across history, is something that should stop every man watching this dead in his tracks. He says, "Wealth is what you don't see. Let that land," because it runs completely contrary to everything society has shown you about what success looks like. The man driving the Lamborghini might be in debt. The man in the modest house with the 10-year-old car might be worth $20 million. The person you assume is wealthy based on what they display is often the person spending every dollar they earn and borrowed to maintain that display. And the person you overlook, the quiet man with no social media presence, no flashy lifestyle, no performance of status, is often the one whose financial discipline has been compounding silently for decades. Housel uses Ronald Read, the janitor I told you about at the beginning, as his most powerful example of this principle. Read never earned a high income. He never had access to inside information. He simply bought stocks in companies he understood, never sold them, spent almost nothing, and let time do the work that most men are too impatient to let it do. The habit that built Ronald Read's fortune was not intelligence. It was not talent. It was a masculine quality, so fundamental and so undervalued in the modern world that most men have lost access to it entirely. It was patience weaponized as strategy. Here is the first masculine habit that creates wealth, and it is one that most men are actively working against right now without realizing it. Controlling the gap between what you earn and what you spend. This sounds so simple that most men dismiss it immediately. They want the sophisticated answer. They want the investment strategy, the business model, the financial hack. But Housel is unambiguous on this point, and the data behind him is overwhelming. The single most powerful wealth-building mechanism available to any man at any income level is the consistent, disciplined maintenance of a gap between income and expenditure. Not a small gap, not a "I'll save what's left over" gap, a deliberate, protected, non-negotiable gap that exists before any discretionary spending happens. The reason most men fail at this is not mathematical. It is psychological. We live in a world that is engineered deliberately expensively with the full resources of the most sophisticated behavioral scientists on Earth to make you spend. Every advertisement, every social media feed, every product placement, every limited time offer, and only 3 left in stock notification is designed to activate the part of your brain that cannot tolerate delayed gratification, the part that wants the reward now, regardless of the cost later. And that part of your brain is not weak. It is ancient. It was built for a world where the opportunity in front of you might not exist tomorrow, where taking the resource now was genuinely the right survival decision. But that brain is running in a world it was never designed for, and the man who does not consciously, deliberately override it, who does not build structures and habits that protect him from his own impulses, will spend his entire working life earning money and watching it disappear without being able. Housel tells the story of 2 investors. Call them Alex and Ben. Alex earns $100,000 a year and saves $20,000. Ben earns $80,000 a year and saves $30,000. In 20 years, despite earning less, Ben is wealthier, not because of investment genius, because of the habit of protecting the gap. The masculine discipline here is not deprivation. It is prioritization. It is the daily, repeated choice to value your future self as highly as your present self, which is one of the most genuinely difficult psychological habits a human being can develop in the modern world. And if you're finding value in what we're sharing today, and I believe you are, please take a moment right now to subscribe to Prime Within. Every week we go this deep on the habits, the mindset, and the psychology that builds a genuinely excellent life. Subscribe now. You will not regret it. The second masculine habit that creates wealth is one that the most financially successful men in history have practiced in one form or another, and it is almost embarrassingly simple when you first hear it. They read every single day, not social media, not news, books, deep, sustained, focused reading that builds real knowledge over time. Warren Buffett, the most successful investor of the 20th century, a man worth over $100 billion, spends approximately 80% of his working day reading, not in meetings, not in strategy sessions. Reading. He has said publicly that the most important investment he ever made was in himself, specifically in reading every book he could find about business and investing from the time he was a teenager. Charlie Munger, Buffett's longtime business partner, who lived to 100 years old and remained sharp and effective until nearly the end, described his method this way: "I have nothing to add. I just sit in my office and read all day." He called himself a learning machine and credited his entire career to the discipline of continuous self-education. Morgan Housel makes a point in The Psychology of Money that connects reading directly to wealth, not just because knowledge creates opportunity, but because the man who reads widely develops something that cannot be purchased or inherited. He develops what Housel calls a sense of financial history, the understanding that markets go up and markets go down, that recessions come and pass, that the panic of this moment has been felt 1,000 times before and has resolved 1,000 times before, and that the man who knows this history is almost impossible to destabilize financially. He does not sell in a panic. He does not make decisions from fear. He has the context that turns volatility from a threat into an opportunity. The man who does not read is at the mercy of whoever is talking to him loudest right now. The financial news channel, the friend who got lucky on a cryptocurrency, the social media algorithm that serves him whatever is generating the most emotional reaction. Without the foundation of real knowledge, he is building his financial decisions on sand, and the first strong wind will blow everything down. The masculine habit of reading is not about becoming a scholar. It is about becoming ungovernable by ignorance. It is about building the kind of mind that makes decisions from knowledge rather than from emotion, from history rather than from hype, from genuine understanding rather than from fear of missing out. 30 minutes a day, every day, not when you feel like it, not when you have extra time, every day, the same way you brush your teeth, because your mind is the most valuable asset you will ever own, and an asset you do not maintain depreciates. Here is the third masculine habit that creates wealth. And this one is going to challenge something most men believe deeply about ambition and success. Learn to be comfortable being unknown while you build. Elon Musk, before Tesla was publicly successful, was not famous. Jeff Bezos spent the first decade of Amazon's existence being laughed at by analysts who said the internet bookstore would never survive. Howard Schultz was rejected by 242 investors before a single person would back his vision for Starbucks. Sam Walton built Walmart's first 24 stores without a single national headline. The most significant wealth in the world was built in obscurity, in the unglamorous, unnoticed, unphotographed years of doing the work before the recognition arrived. But the modern man has a problem that Ronald Read, who built his $8 million in an era before social media, never had to face. He has been given a platform, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, that allows him to perform success before he has achieved it, to post the lifestyle before he has earned it, to build an audience around a version of himself that does not yet exist. And the seduction of that performance is destroying more male potential than almost any other single force in the culture right now. Housel writes about what he calls the man in the car paradox. He says, when you see someone driving an expensive car, you do not think about how impressive that person is. You imagine yourself in that car. The car does not transfer status to its owner in the mind of the observer. It transfers desire to the observer, which means the man spending $2,000 a month on a car payment to impress people is not actually impressing anyone. He is simply activating their own desire for the same object. The man who posts the vacation instead of investing the money who buys the watch instead of funding the business, who prioritizes looking successful over becoming successful. That man is trading his actual future for someone else's momentary admiration. And the trade is catastrophically one-sided. We are at the halfway point of this video, and I want to pause and genuinely thank you for watching this far. If you have not subscribed yet, please do it right now. Hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss a video. We release content every week that goes this deep, this real, and this directly into the habits and mindset of men who are serious about building something. Subscribe now. It matters more than you know to this channel. The fourth masculine habit that creates wealth is one that Morgan Housel discusses at length in The Psychology of Money, and it is perhaps the most counterintuitive insight in the entire book. Surviving is more important than winning. Housel makes this point through one of the most stunning facts in financial history. If you take the career of Warren Buffett, who began investing at age 10 and is now in his 90s, 97% of his net worth was accumulated after his 65th birthday. Not because he got dramatically smarter, not because he found some new strategy, but because he survived. He stayed in the market. He did not panic and sell when things got difficult. He did not abandon his principles when the crowd went in a different direction. He compounded year after year, decade after decade, and time did what time does to every consistent, patient, disciplined process. It multiplied everything. The men who fail financially do not usually fail because they made one catastrophic decision. They fail because they could not endure the discomfort of waiting. They sell when the market drops because the anxiety of watching the number go down is unbearable. They abandon the business at month 18 because it has not yet become profitable and the uncertainty is too much to hold. They quit the habit before the compound effect has had time to activate, which, by definition, always takes longer than you expect and produces results that always look sudden from the outside. Housel calls this getting rich slowly, and he argues it is the only reliable path, not because slow is the only option, but because slow is the only path that does not require you to take on the risk levels that eventually wipe most fast movers out. The man who is trying to double his money in 6 months is taking risks that the man trying to build wealth over 20 years never has to take. And the risk taker might win once, twice, even 3 times. But eventually, the variance catches up, because variance always catches up. The masculine habit of survival, of staying in the game, of protecting your capital, of avoiding the catastrophic losses that come from undisciplined risk, is not the exciting version of finance, but it is the version that actually works. And the discipline required to practice it, the ability to endure boring, slow, incremental progress when every instinct in you is screaming to do something dramatic, is one of the deepest expressions of masculine self-control that exists. Let me talk about a man named Chris Gardner. You may know his story. It was turned into the movie The Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith. But the real story is more instructive than the film version, because the film version focuses on the dramatic ending, the success, the tearful moment, the triumph. What the film glosses over are the habits. Gardner was homeless in San Francisco with his young son. He was sleeping in subway bathrooms, in church shelters, working as an unpaid intern at a brokerage firm during the day, and hiding the fact that he had no home at night. Every single morning, without a place to live, without certainty about where his son would sleep that night, without any visible reason to believe things would improve, he showed up, dressed as well as he could manage. Present, professional, learning everything he could learn. He did not wait until his circumstances were comfortable to behave like the man he was becoming. He behaved like that man while his circumstances were still devastating, and his circumstances eventually adjusted to match his behavior. That is the masculine wealth habit in its most powerful and most raw form. The refusal to let your current situation dictate your future standards. The discipline of showing up as the man you are building toward in the conditions that exist right now with the resources you currently have without waiting for permission from circumstance. Gardner went on to found his own brokerage firm, Gardner Rich, and became a millionaire, not because the world gave him a break, because he refused to let the absence of a break change who he was in private every single day, when it would have been completely understandable to give up. The fifth masculine habit that creates wealth is one that Housel discusses with particular clarity, and it is the habit most men are most resistant to because it requires something that feels like weakness: asking for help. Specifically, learning from people who are further ahead than you. Housel draws a distinction in The Psychology of Money between two types of financial knowledge. The first is what he calls textbook knowledge, the rules, the formulas, the technical information you can learn from a book. The second is what he calls experience knowledge, the understanding that only comes from having been through market cycles, business failures, financial panic, and the psychological reality of watching your money fluctuate in ways that no textbook can fully prepare you for. The fastest way to shortcut the gap between where you are and where you want to be financially is not to work harder. It is to learn from someone who has already made the mistakes you are about to make. The man who reads biographies of great builders. The man who finds a mentor, not to network, not to impress, but to genuinely learn. The man who is humble enough to know that his current map of the world is incomplete and who actively seeks the experiences of people. The wealthiest men in history were almost universally obsessive learners. Buffett and Munger have spoken hundreds of times about learning from Benjamin Graham, their mentor, and from each other. Bezos credits the framework for Amazon's culture to Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, which he read and then distributed to his entire leadership team. Gates has said publicly that his learning habits, reading 50 books a year, taking annual think weeks in isolation to read and think without interruption, are the foundation of everything he built. The masculine habit of learning is not passive. It is aggressive. It is the decision to treat your own mind as the primary business you are building, because every other business you will ever build is only as strong as the mind running it. And if you have made it this far in the video, genuinely thank you. That tells me something about who you are. You are someone who finishes what they start, someone who invests in themselves. That is exactly who this channel is built for. Subscribe to Prime Within if you have not already. Hit that button right now. We are building something here together. A community of men who take their own development seriously, and you belong in it. The sixth masculine habit that creates wealth is one that will challenge the most deeply held belief most men have about the relationship between money and masculinity. Stop performing. Start building. There is a version of masculinity that has been sold to men for decades, through advertising, through hip-hop culture, through social media, that says wealth is a performance, that the point of money is display, the car, the watch, the bottle service, the lifestyle that signals to everyone around you that you have arrived. And that version of masculinity is one of the most effective wealth destruction mechanisms ever invented. Because every dollar spent on performance is a dollar not compounding. Every dollar spent on appearing wealthy is a dollar actively working against the process of becoming wealthy. And the brutal arithmetic of compound interest means that the 25-year-old man who spends $500 a month performing success instead of investing it will lose, conservatively, over a 40-year period, somewhere between $1 and $2 million. Not in income, in compounded wealth that never existed, because it was spent on things that are now worth nothing. Housel makes this point with characteristic precision. He writes, "Spending money to show people how much money you have is the fastest way to have less money. It is not a moral judgment. It is mathematics." The genuinely wealthy men that Housel profiles in his research, the ones with lasting, multi-generational financial security, share one behavioral pattern that cuts across all other differences. They do not use money to communicate their status. They use their money to build more money. They drive ordinary cars. They live in houses that do not attract attention. They wear unremarkable clothes. And they do this not from deprivation, not from self-denial in a punishing sense, but from a completely different relationship with money than the one most men have been taught to have. They see money not as a signal to be broadcast, but as a tool to be deployed. Every dollar is a worker, and a worker you send out to perform in public is a worker who is no longer in the factory producing more. The masculine shift here is profound. It is the shift from using money to manage how others see you, to using money to build the life you actually want. And the life you actually want, the real one, the one with genuine security, genuine freedom, genuine options, is almost never the one that requires a Rolex and a leased BMW to describe it to strangers. The seventh and final masculine habit I want to give you today is perhaps the most important one, and it comes directly from one of the most quoted passages in The Psychology of Money. Housel writes, "The ability to do what you want, when you want, with who you want, for as long as you want, that is the highest dividend money pays." He calls this the ultimate goal of financial freedom, not a number in an account, not a specific net worth, but the condition of having enough time, enough resources, enough options, that your daily life is governed by genuine choice rather than financial necessity. And the masculine habit that builds toward that condition is the daily practice of protecting your own autonomy. It means building income that is not entirely dependent on a single employer. It means developing skills that are valuable across multiple contexts, so that if one door closes, others are genuinely available. It means building savings that give you the psychological freedom to walk away from things that do not serve you. Bad business relationships, unfair employment conditions, opportunities that pay well but cost you your dignity. Most men live in financial arrangements that remove their autonomy entirely. They spend everything they earn, or more than they earn, which means they cannot afford to say no to anything that pays them. They cannot take risks on opportunities that might transform their lives because they have no cushion, no runway, no financial ground to stand on if things go wrong. They are, despite their income, completely dependent on their employer, on their next paycheck, on the continuation of conditions they did not create and cannot control. The man who builds the habits we have talked about today, who protects the gap, who reads and learns, who builds in silence, who survives rather than chases dramatic wins, who deploys money rather than displays it. that man is building something more valuable than a high net worth. He is building options, and options are freedom, and freedom, as any man who has truly had it will tell you, is worth more than anything money can directly buy. Let me bring everything together and leave you with the truth that ties all of this into one. Ronald Read, the janitor from Vermont who left behind $8 million, never gave an interview about wealth. He never ran a seminar. He never wrote a book or built a social media presence. He just lived quietly, consistently, with habits so disciplined and so unglamorous that nobody noticed them until he was gone. And in his silence, in his invisibility, in his completely unremarkable daily life, he built something that most men who worked much harder, earned much more, and performed much louder never approached. He built freedom. The masculine habits that create wealth are not secret. They are not complicated. They are not reserved for the educated, the connected, or the naturally gifted. They are available to every man watching this right now, today, without any additional resources, without any special opportunity, without waiting for permission from circumstance. They are available to you. The question is not whether you know them. You do now. The question is whether you will choose them. Over and over, in the quiet moments when nobody is watching, in the boring weeks when nothing seems to be happening, in the years when the compound effect is working invisibly beneath the surface of your life, and you cannot yet see the results. Morgan Housel ends The Psychology of Money with a line that I want to give you as the final word today. He writes, "Manage your money in a way that helps you sleep at night. Not the way that looks best on paper, not the way that impresses other people, not the way that makes you feel like you're doing something exciting and dramatic. The way that lets you close your eyes at night, knowing that your future self is being taken care of, that tomorrow you will have options, that the quiet, consistent, disciplined man you are becoming is building something that will outlast every trend, every market cycle, every moment of doubt. Start today, not next week, not when the income is higher or the timing is better. Today, one habit: protect the gap between what you earn and what you spend. Start there, and then add the next one, and the one after that, and let time, the most powerful force in all of wealth building, do the rest. You are capable of this, not because it is easy, but because you are a man who finishes what he starts. And I know that because you are still here. This is Prime Within. And before I let you go, if you have been watching this channel and you have not yet subscribed, I am asking you one final time. Please subscribe right now. Hit the notification bell. Share this video with one man in your life who needs to hear it. Because the work we are doing here is too important to keep to yourself. We are building a community of men who take their own lives seriously. And your seat at that table is waiting. Master yourself first. Build your legacy. I will see you in the next one.